Welcome back. This video is going to be different than some of the other ones. I won't be demoing, so I would like for you to just sit, relax, maybe grab some popcorn while I chat and I talk to you about pop art and our next project, which is going to be drawing or painting animals in the pop art style. So first we're going to be talking about the art, and then we're going to talk about how to actually do the project. And then if you have any extra questions, as per usual, you can just email me or find me in Zoom or GChat, everything, all of it. It's all good. All right, so pop art is called pop art not because it pops, but because it is based off of popular culture. That's why it's called pop music, not because it pops, right? So know that pop art way back in the day is going to look a little different than how it would look now, because we're talking like 50s and 60s in America and also a little bit in Britain. And so it's going to look kind of dated, but it was definitely pop culture at the time. So you should also know that this is kind of British pop art, and we're not going to really go there with the collaging and all that. So let's just keep going. All right, so there is another element of pop art called kitsch, and you can definitely use the kitsch style to your advantage in this project. And the whole point behind kitsch is when something is purposefully ugly and or funny, like intentionally. So if you go over to your friend's house and they have a mug that looks like Chewbacca's head from Star Wars, and you said, "Oh my God, that's so kitsch," they'd be like, "Thank you." Whereas if you went over to your grandma's house and you pointed at the wallpaper she had on her walls for the past 40 years and you said, "Grandma, your wallpaper is so kitsch," she'd be like, excuse me? No, I don't think so. So know that it has to have intent behind it. And obviously, when it comes to animals, the most recent version of kitsch would be Grumpy Cat. This picture here is like a really, really old version of Grumpy Cat. And then our major icon of pop art is Andy Warhol. You can kind of see in this picture, but not so much, that he has crazy bleached hair, and at his gallery openings, he would wear really crazy colored outfits like yellow pants and purple suit jackets, and he would have like Dalmatians around him. He was a super weird dude. And he was also really kind of hated. And it's all because of Andy Warhol that we have copyright law. So Andy Warhol was starting to gain some fame, and he was standing in a gallery talking with a gallery owner, and she's like, "For this next show, you should do like, I don't know, soup cans or something." And he went, "I'll pay you $30 for that idea." And she went, okay. So he pays her the $30, and he goes off and he produces, with a group of people that he refers to as the factory, a whole bunch of pieces of art that he's calling original pieces. So he's selling them all for literally millions of dollars, and he's making a huge profit making all of these Campbell's soup can paintings. You can't tell, but I'm putting paintings in air quotes because the factory, the group of people that was making these for him, were doing this using a process called silk screening, which is an easy way to make duplicates over and over again of images with just color variations. So of course, the gallery owner is like, "Yo, Andy, glad you're making a lot of money, but because you're using my idea, you think maybe you could give me some more money?" And he said, "No, I already paid you for it, the $30. So obviously nowadays with copyright law, we have a lot more protections against this. Now, he not only did this to this one woman, but pop art in general as a movement back in the day was kind of infamous for kind of screwing people over of their original ideas. So you've probably seen these before, especially the woman right in the middle. That is Marilyn Monroe. You'll probably even recognize some of these other folks like Jacqueline Kennedy and Michael Jackson and the Queen, Barbie, of course. But the problem behind these pieces as well is that he would take photographs that famous or attempting to be famous photographers would take of these celebrities and use those images to create this art, sell them as originals, make millions of dollars, and the photographers wouldn't get any of the money. And you've probably seen this at IKEA. This is very, very famous of Marilyn Monroe. Once again, you can see the silkscreen process here, where it's the same image, just with different layers of different colors. This piece is called Double Elvis. If you've ever been to the Broad Museum in downtown Los Angeles, they have single Elvis there. And just so you have an idea of how much these are worth, this piece sold at a Christie's auction in 2016 for $33 million, which is crazy. So the other thing you should know about Andy is that because he was highly disliked by people and was really, really rude to people, there was this one particular woman named Valerie Salonis. Now, you should know that she was an extremist feminist, which means that she crazily thought that all men should die and they were the worst thing ever. She decided one day to walk into one of his galleries and shoot him in the stomach. He barely survived. He had to wear what's called a surgical corset, which basically holds your organs in, which is like really gross, right? And she was put in jail and everything. But after his injury, like, he was kind of a little bit of a different dude, not for the better. And he just got kind of weird. So sometimes even when signing documents, he liked to draw a banana, stamp an image of a banana, or even straight up just put a banana on the document, and people would be like, Andy, that's not a signature. And he'd be like, yeah, it is, whatever. So that's Andy Warhol for you. Pretty crazy dude, right? Around the same time that Andy Warhol was being like really noticed across all of America, Roy Lichtenstein saw his work and said, hey, I can do that too. So Roy Lichtenstein decided that he would take little frames out of the newspaper from the comic strips and paint them larger. Now, in my opinion, Roy Lichtenstein wasn't nearly as bad as Andy Warhol because he did hand paint these himself. And in some ways, it's kind of cool to see the way that he painted what was originally a very, very small image. He would keep what's called the halftone dot and actually paint little tiny dots of color in his paintings so that it would look literally exactly like the original that was printed tiny in the newspaper. Now, did Roy Lichtenstein give any money to the comic artists that originally created these images exactly? No, he did not, because Andy Warhol wasn't giving money to the original creators. The only thing he would change, if he would change anything, is sometimes he changed the name to Brad. We do not know who Brad is, and we don't know why he sometimes changed names to Brad. Now, if you attempted to do what Roy Lichtenstein was doing back then, now you would have the pantsuit off of you, especially with this Disney one in the top right. If you attempted to create a piece of artwork featuring Disney characters and sell it for a substantial profit, what would happen is the giant legal team that works for Disney would send you what's called a cease and desist letter, which is very scary, and it basically threatens you if you don't stop making a profit off of their images, that they'll come and take your house and your car and your dog and everything from you. If for some reason why you decide, oh, whatever, I'm not scared, I'm going to keep doing it, then they follow through and they take everything from you. That's literally some people's full-time jobs, is to work as a legal team for a large company to protect their copyright. So now, that being said, with you guys being young, if you paint a picture of Mickey Mouse and give it to your cousin for their birthday, you are not going to be sued. It is totally fine. I believe the threshold for you to have to deal with copyright law is $5,000. So if you're selling t-shirts and you make over $5,000, or if you are selling a painting for over $5,000, then that's an issue if you're using somebody else's imagery. Some of you guys that are super art informed might recognize the bottom right hand corner is actually a rendition of Van Gogh's bedroom. And then we are now going from the 50s and 60s to the 80s. Keith Haring is actually one of my favorite artists. I like him a lot. Okay, so we're talking 1980s. He was actually a pretty cool guy that got really popular and was hanging out with celebrities like Madonna. And everybody liked him, and he would create these really kooky, bright, fun pieces. They almost always had black outlines and little wiggle lines to look like movement. I remember when I was young seeing little animations of his art on Sesame Street. But unfortunately, because this was the 80s, Keith Haring contracted AIDS. And when you caught AIDS in the 80s, it was practically a death sentence, which is very sad. And he died at the age of 32. So know that nowadays, if you have AIDS, you can live a pretty long, healthy life. They now have treatments. They don't have a cure. But once Keith Haring discovered that he had AIDS, he basically decided that all the work he was going to do would be to benefit lower class societies and to give a ridiculous amount of money to the AIDS Foundation to help find a cure. And he raised a crazy amount of money, and he helped so many communities. He did a lot of public works, and he was just very, very passionate and very caring. And that's why I think he's such an awesome artist. And also his work is really fun and happy and kooky, just craziness, especially that little baby one. So cute. If you ever shop at a place called Uniqlo, they sell some of his artwork on their t-shirts and stuff, and some of that money still goes to the AIDS Foundation. So that's really cool. We're going to quickly talk about David Hockney as well. As you can tell, we're getting slightly more contemporary, which is nice. David Hockney was a British dude that came to Southern California and was interested in the pop art scene, but he was doing abstract art because abstract was still a big deal over in Europe. So he decided he kind of wanted to mash the two together. So abstract and pop art, while being in Southern California, resulted in a lot of pieces like this, which I absolutely adore. These pieces are really, really big, and they have these gorgeous flat planes of color that he would like lay on with giant squeegees. And like that splash is done by him like throwing an actual like paint can at the canvas. He also uses very, very simple colors. Notice that there's just green, yellow, blue, and a pop of red in this piece. And he really, really adored Southern California culture and captures them really well in these really cool, simple pieces. I've seen this painting before in real life, and you can see like the grass is all individual brush stroke lines made, and then the sprinklers are done with a little spray can set next to the canvas, and then just a little and you get that really cool effect. Something else cool about him is that he would go out into the desert with a couple of disposable cameras and go back after taking a bajillion pictures and arrange these really cool photo collages. I just thought that was cool, and then I'd throw that in there for you. Wesselmann was also very cool. However, I'm just going to breeze through him really fast. If you're curious, you can look him up. This is a very good example of pop art way back in the day, right? Pop art, popular culture then with cigarettes, white bread, and Royal Crown Cola. Now it would be like Coca-Cola and ear pods and an iPad and right, like totally different things. The cool thing about this guy is he would use like real actual objects on top of paintings to make some really cool stuff. Okay, so Romero Britto, we're talking about present day, and he is the prime example that I want for you to pay attention to for our project that we're about to do. So living and working now, Romero Britto is in Florida, and he kind of brought together a lot of the stuff I just showed you into one thing. So like Keith Haring, he uses black outlines with really bright colors. Like Andy Warhol, he has patterns. He also does a lot of public work and like very good community building stuff. His style is like simple and bold and really, really fun. Here are some Andy Warhol-like portraits that he has done. And here is the prime example of a dog that Romero Britto painted. And for this piece that you're going to do, I want for you to first pick an animal, and it is totally okay for your animal to be one of your pets. One thing that I will say, though, is that you do not want to attempt to paint a pet or animal that is extremely fluffy. If you have a very, very fluffy dog, like a Pomeranian, it will be super hard to use this kind of style to do a fluffy animal. If you're going to pick just any animal, I highly recommend reptiles or, like turtles, giraffes, zebras, ones that have obvious prints on them. It's easy to do in this kind of pop art style, right? You want to use simple shapes, black outlines, bright colors, and some fun patterns. Your colors shouldn't be generic at all. They should be really crazy and fun. And of course, you need to use photo reference to help you get there. I know it can be tempting to just come up with it out of your brain, but it's really, really helpful for you to first choose a photo, send it to me. Let me see what you're planning on doing, especially in terms of picking colors and all that. I can help you a lot to make sure that you choose attractive colors. And then you can go ahead with the plan that we've made. Notice that pop art doesn't limit you to only doing crazy colors or only doing black outlines. You can do a combination, but it's up to you. These are both appropriate and good examples of something you can go for this project. Here's like a slightly variant example as well. If you're more interested in, I guess, like deconstructing your animals, that would be very, very cool. And you can also use kitsch. So you can put a bow tie on your animal. You can put a top hat on your animal. You can have a llama in front of a birthday cake. It is up to you. I want for it to be really, really fun and really bright. That's the most important thing. So I'm going to go back to this one more time. Once again, this is your goal. Don't forget that this is your goal. Do not send to me a photo real drawing that you've done of a bear. That will get you an F. So I hope you guys have a really fun time doing this, and let me know if you have any additional questions outside of this main presentation. Thanks, guys. Have a good time painting or drawing.